While going through healing process after surviving narcissistic abuse, there comes a period, a phase, a stage in which you wake up to your reality, in which you realize things like everything was a lie right from the beginning until the very end, and the person that you fell in love with never existed. You see through the illusion, and that is when it gets really painful. For these reasons, this period, this phase can be described as a form of rebirth, a metamorphosis, or a rude awakening. During this realization phase, the fog lifts and the truth of your situation becomes devastatingly clear. Why devastatingly? Because you are hit with so much grief, so much pain that you feel you're back at the square one and you have not made any progress. This phase is not just a turning point, but an intense tsunami of emotions, understanding, and self-discovery. Let's talk more about this realization phase in today's episode. Hi, I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. Today in this episode, we'll be talking about the delayed realization that happens when you leave the narcissist, how you end up waking up to your reality, and how everything comes together. If that sounds interesting enough and you're eager to learn with me, please make sure to subscribe before we begin, because as I always say, your subscription to the channel helps in spreading awareness about narcissistic abuse. Let's open this discussion with a question. Where are you in your healing journey? Have you seen through the narcissist, and do you see them for who they are? Are you going through this realization phase, or have you already experienced it? Drop your experiences and thoughts and ideas, whatever it is, in the comments below and help other survivors feel less alone in their journey. Now, this realization phase begins with unraveling the web of deception. To help you understand this better, imagine your understanding of your life and relationships as a neatly woven fabric. This realization phase that you go through is like taking a pair of scissors to that fabric, shredding it to pieces as you come to understand the depth of the manipulation you have been subjected to. That is what it is like. You have a certain construct of life, of how it is, and then suddenly when you start waking up, it all comes crumbling down. Every thread you cut is a memory, an interaction, a moment that you now see in stark, harsh light. You realize those good memories were also a lie. They never were good to you. Those were the breadcrumbs that you settled for. The process of waking up is not gentle. It's not a tug at the threads, but a violent ripping apart. That's why it is so intense. It's not a gradual process. It is an abrupt and shocking transformation of your reality. Think about this for a moment. What happens when the person you trusted implicitly turns out to be your biggest enemy, the one who tormented you the most? Your faith in others, in your own judgment, shatters into a million pieces. It's like standing on solid ground one moment and free falling the next. It's like you're falling into an abyss and you're trying to hold on to something and you can't. That is how it feels like. The world becomes uncertain, your footing unsure. This loss of trust is a key factor in the intensity of this realization phase. You wake up to your reality, and when you see through things, it makes you question yourself. You ask questions like, why didn't I leave earlier? How could I let that happen to me? Why did I stop them when they were doing that, saying that? Why did I apologize for no mistake of mine? How could I accept that blame? How did I think I was the crazy one? And that fills you with a lot of rage towards the narcissist and towards yourself. The truth is, it is not just a betrayal by the narcissist, but a betrayal of your own instincts and judgments, because they make you betray yourself. You need to understand that. So the rebuilding process is very painful and adds to the overwhelming feelings during this phase, because as you're going through these realizations, you're rebuilding yourself simultaneously. So it's a very, very difficult process to go through. One of the most painful aspects of this realization is seeing through the narcissist's gaslighting, realizing that you were heavily gaslit and you were dissociated from your thoughts, from your feelings, and from your belief system. When you realize you have been gaslit, It's like waking up from a distorted dream. Your world spins as you try to grasp at the fragments of your reality. This feeling of being unmoored, of having to relearn trust in your own perceptions, adds another layer to the intensity of this realization phase. Because it's one thing to realize your trust has been violated, your trust has been broken, and you were made to betray yourself, and then it is another thing to recreate that trust, to trust yourself again, to trust people again, knowing how damaging a person can be, how destructive a person's presence, their brainwashing, and their actions can be. As you go through this realization phase, you understand that there were many parts of you that were lost, buried, or erased, because that is the main part of this whole process. And when you realize that, when you see through the things, and when you realize how much you have been damaged, you naturally start excavating those buried parts, resurrecting the person you were and merging that with the person you have become. So basically, you try to find the balance. You start trusting yourself again. It is a journey of self-discovery, which feels like walking on a path filled with broken glass. Each step is painful, but each step takes you closer to healing, to reclaiming your identity. And that journey, while liberating, is also incredibly intense. Quite often, survivors say they feel depressed, or there is so much emotional charge stored in their bodies, and there is so much anger, there is so much sadness, there is so much grief that tries to come up because they are making sense of so many things at once. And in a way, it is a form of catharsis that is trying to happen. It's like the dam holding back your pent up feelings bursts, and you are swept away in the torrent. Anger, grief, betrayal, and oddly relief too flood you. It is overwhelming, exhausting, and cathartic at the same time. This release that happens and that you should let happen is a crucial part of the realization phase. It's a purge of that toxicity that you have been carrying, adding more to the difficulties a survivor faces in this phase. In a nutshell, we can say realizing, waking up to your truth, going through this realization phase is not a gentle awakening. It's a violent, shattering upheaval. It's intense because it's a dismantling of your reality and a painful reconstruction. It's a cleansing fire that burns away the deception, leaving you raw and exposed, but prepared for the formation of your new self. You need to remember that this intensity, this extreme emotionality is not just about destruction. You are going through this stage of grief, this realization, for a reason. It has to happen for you to be able to move out of this. You have to move through. It's like a rebirth that you have to let happen. It's like forging a new, stronger self from the remains of your past self. That was it for today's episode. I hope you found it insightful. If you did, let me know in the comments, drop a like, and share this episode with others. I'll talk with you in the next one. Until then, let the healing begin and continue.